One of the most interesting stories of the 2025 to 2026 offseason so far has been the landing spot of future Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is debatably the best quarterback in Packers history and has been the Jets' signal caller since 2023. His first season in New York was a total disaster, tearing his Achilles tendon in just week 1. His season was over before even completing a pass in a Jets uniform, and you can fit his entire season into a 24-second highlight clip. However, at 40 years old, he bounced back and was healthy for almost the entire season in 2024 and threw for 3,900 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. But to no one's surprise, the Jets still sucked and could only muster up 5 wins, leaving Aaron Rodgers a free agent for the 2026 season. Since the Jets and Rodgers decided to mutually part ways, he has flirted with a few teams in free agency, but is still yet to sign in late May. I'm going to be covering where I think he will end up and some of the conversations he's had with some of these teams and what exactly the holdup on a deal getting done has been. Rodgers has reportedly flirted with a few teams, but for the most part, it has come down to 2. The Minnesota Vikings and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Aaron Rodgers has reportedly reached out to the Vikings himself and is very interested in playing there in 2026. However, the Vikings have not reciprocated those same feelings, and they feel comfortable with former first-round pick J.J. McCarthy going into the 2026 season. Rodgers still has a shot to land there, though. The Vikings have lost Sam Darnold to the Seattle Seahawks, and Rodgers more than likely only has 1 season left in the NFL, which is perfect as McCarthy could sit 1 more year and even learn behind the future Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers. Not to mention, McCarthy has dealt with a pretty serious injury, which kept him sidelined all of his rookie season. It seems currently that Rodgers is waiting on what the Vikings have to say before he makes any sort of decision, with sources pointing out that this is his number 1 current destination and would be a great fit for him.
Dan, I checked on that this week. I kind of get the same lines from people in Pittsburgh, which is, hey, we remain optimistic. We remain in contact with Aaron Rodgers. No new update yet. So they are essentially still waiting on him. I go back to this is his first foray into free agency in a 20-year career that was highly unpredictable. So this was never going to be smooth or easy. And, OTAs is in a little under 3 weeks for the Steelers, May 27th. So that'd be the target date for them. They would, certainly hope that by then he's in the fold. I don't think they've changed their plan. They're waiting on him. They know he's had some stuff in his inner circle or some family stuff that he has been dealing with, which he alluded to on the Pat McAfee show a few months ago. So they're sensitive to all that, and they're just going to kind of roll with Mason Rudolph until then. There's some teams I've talked to that are still kind of wondering, is he just waiting out the Vikings, because the Vikings would be an ideal scenario, one of the best play callers in the league, and Kevin O'Connell, 9 dome games. You're guaranteed 9 dome games per year. There's some element of that, but checking with the Vikings, I still don't expect that. They're moving forward with J.J. McCarthy. So he really has no other option other than Pittsburgh or retire, it seems right now.
Did he get married?
Currently, it seems unlikely that Rodgers signs with the Vikings at this point, but it would be an interesting scenario, considering he'd be in a great situation on a former 14-win team with Sam Darnold at the helm, and he'd be following Brett Favre's exact career trajectory up to this point. It seems like all signs then point to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is coming off another decent season and an early playoff exit, as it's been for the past few years for them. The roster is solid all around, and he'd be in a good spot that is looking to contend in the playoffs for 2026. The interest here has actually been a bit more mutual than it was in Minnesota, as the Steelers are in immediate need of a quarterback help right away. As it stands, they will have Mason Rudolph as their starter. We saw how that worked out for the Tennessee Titans. Will Howard, the rookie quarterback out of Ohio State, he is a national champion, but he was not very highly touted, and he has clear issues in his game. And then third stringer Skylar Thompson, go Dolphins, who looked okay in a few starts, but he should be no more than a third stringer. If the Steelers want any prayer of competing, they need an upgrade at this position, and as it stands, Rodgers is the best option by a long mile. They recently acquired Seahawk receiver DK Metcalf as well, which would be a solid quarterback to wide receiver duo if they're able to pull off the signing. However, they did just trade George Pickens, so he's down one weapon already. Rodgers has been stalling, waiting on Minnesota, and some Steelers fans and players seem to be getting a bit tiresome of this act.
So if they called you and were like, we need you to follow him into the darkness for a couple days, he says if you come down there with him, he's signing. Are you going to be off the grid for a little bit, go to the darkness and try to get this guy? We need you. You're our best recruiter. I'm about to get to Darius Slay, and it sounds like you recruited him too. So we need you to start recruiting. Get that NIL bag out like you did at Ohio State.
I ain't doing that darkness retreat. I don't need any of that crap. Like, either you want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler or you don't. That's simple. That's the pitch. Like, if you want me to recruit, that's the recruiting pitch. You know, Pittsburgh Steelers. If you want to be part of it, so be it. If you don't, no skin on my back.
Whatever Rodgers decides, he needs to speed up the process, as it may be getting old for some of these teams by now. The third and the final option for Rodgers is retirement. Rodgers is 40 years old and will be playing his 20th season in the NFL in 2026. If no team shows interest, then I believe he'd be more than willing to hang up the cleats and be completely satisfied with the Hall of Fame career he's put forward. I still believe that Rodgers has plenty of gas left in the tank though, and he should absolutely be considered for a starting job going into 2026. His time with the Jets was certainly underwhelming, but how can you turn down a Hall of Fame quarterback like Aaron Rodgers to lead your team into 2026? He's still very efficient with the ball at his old age and has a touchdown to interception ratio that is very good. Sure, his QBR has taken a bit of a hit, but he was also sacked 40 times behind a very weak Jets offensive line. I think with the right team around him, you can absolutely still win with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. I think he will more than likely end up in Pittsburgh, as they are the only team showing significant interest at this time and have such a hole at the quarterback position.